a lot of people get really like annoyed or peeved about, I guess you would say, forced diversity in certain areas. And I can kind of understand where some of those people are coming from, because it does exclude groups of people by default, because if you're like, okay, we're doing this event for only this group of people, you're like, okay, well, what about the rest of us? And it's like, yeah, I get that, because it is excluding the rest of us. However, that's not the intention of the event. The intention of those type of events isn't we're better than you, so we're doing our own thing and you can fuck off. That's not what the sentiment is. And I think that's what a lot of people take away from that. And it's really weird that people like think that way sometimes. And I think it's just a weird like knob in their head that they have to turn and just be like, oh, what they're really trying to do is they're just trying to highlight creators that you wouldn't normally see, or highlight players that you wouldn't normally see, just because they're naturally underrepresented. And is it a bad thing? No. Is it a good thing? Sure. There's literally no downside to it. There's literally no downside. And that's the hardest thing to convey to people, is just the sheer fact that there is no downside. There's only an upside, that you're highlighting talent of an underrepresented group of people. Because a lot of times underrepresented groups of people, they just naturally think that they can't go anywhere. There's nowhere for them to go, because they don't have that person that's like them that they can look up to. And they're like, oh, I want to be exactly like that person. Oh yeah, this person has similar traits that I have. They have similar interests. I want to be like that person. Like, you know what I mean? You look up to some people that do things that you like to do. But it's usually naturally somebody that looks like you or is in the same like group of people that you're around, whether it's race, socioeconomic, whatever. It's usually like, you know what I'm talking about. Like everybody who you look up to, it can be whatever, but it's nice to see just various groups of people doing various different things and getting everybody involved in a positive way, so that little people being kids, not like little people being like kids, that they can easily and readily just turn on the TV or turn on Twitch or turn on YouTube, and it's just right in front of their face and be like, oh, hey, that person looks just like me. I love this game. Let me watch this game. Let me watch this creator. And then they just see that person, and then they get into the game. They get better at the game. They're dedicated, and then they see everybody else, and then they're going through it, and then they push the envelope of the game. They get better and better and better, and it just naturally pushes the flow of everything. But a lot of times it's possible that they hear stories of, you know, this group of people is really exclusionary. You may not want to get involved. And so when they see a group of people, they naturally kind of divert their attention away from those people, or they just don't want to get involved. But again, if they see people that they can really relate to, they can latch onto that, and it can just overall improve the quality of everything and everybody that's involved. So I really like what they're doing here. It's, again, it got a lot of shit from some people, which is really weird, from stupid people. But overall, I think it's a lot better than other people give it credit for at the same time. So I think people are just like, oh, it's cool, but they don't understand the impact that it can actually have on the future of gamers. I think a lot of people just don't understand how important it is, because this is going to sound really stupid, right? But here's a good example. Back in the day, when gaming was first starting to get big, and it was mainly just big in South Korea, where they were doing all StarCraft tournaments. It was just StarCraft 1. We're not talking StarCraft 2, we're talking StarCraft 1. But they were doing big world tournaments everywhere, all over the place. But the only people who were winning were Koreans. That was it. It was nobody else. And there was like zero, like, I guess you would say, white people representation, just because they weren't very good. But then you started seeing injections of people who were really, really trying. You see people like Idra, which which is not somebody you should necessarily look up to. But you saw potential talent. And for the most part, you look at StarCraft initially coming from an outsider and you're like, there's no way that I could ever be good at StarCraft because every single top player is Korean. There's literally no, like, you just, for me anyway, as a younger person that was just getting into pro gaming, I would look at StarCraft and I was just like, I'm fucked. There's no way. There's literally no way I could play StarCraft at a high level. So I just didn't. But then so I got into things like Counter-Strike and more FPS based games. But then you started to see a lot more white representation in StarCraft and competing at higher level and top level play. And it was like crazy. You were like, oh, we can do this. This is actually awesome. And then you started seeing a lot more people. And it was really, really weird. And it was super cool to see that happen and that play in real time. And it happened so quickly. It happened within like 2 or 3 years. It was wild. Now, granted, the Koreans still dominate the game, but it was a really, really cool thing to see. It was really, really cool. And I liked it a lot. And I think that's essentially exactly what they're doing here. Even though there is a bit of representation of the black community in Smash Brothers, like they do have Toussaint, Salt, Shroom, Professor Pro. Like these are like good players. These are like top 100 worlds players, probably top 50 for a few of them. Like, so I know Toussaint and Shroomed and Salt are all really, really good. I know Shroomed used to be super, and Prof Pro, I think is top 10 at one point in time. But yeah, just seeing all of them together and them competing against each other, it just brings a light and shows that these people are extremely high level play. And it gives some people somebody to look up to and be like, oh, it's not just white people. Oh, it's not just Asian people. Oh, it's not just Americans. Oh, it's not just whatever the group of people. It's not just Asian. It's not just one group of people. We accept all people in this industry, and you want more people of every kind. Like in gaming, we don't want one group of people. We want the best players. All right. That's all we care about. If you're a high level competitive player, you don't give a fuck who you're playing against. As long as they're the best player, that's all you care about. Like, you want to be the best. You cannot be the best if you do not beat the best, period. And I'm assuming a lot of you haven't played at like a really high level play. I don't know. I don't know everyone's background as far as gaming goes, but it's a very, very, very slim chance that nobody here has played at a super high level, even if it's like states or nationals. But I can tell you firsthand that you only want to play against the best players. That's just what you want to do. That's how you learn so much better. You learn faster, and it feels so much more gratifying when you win. And you don't care who the person is. You literally don't. You just straight up do not give a fuck who it is. You're like, are they good? Yes, get them on the team. If it's a team game, get them on the team. If it's a single player game, but you have like an organization that has many people on the team, be like, hey, this player's good. We need them on the team so they can help everybody else on the team get better. You don't care who it is. You just care about their skill. Same thing with basketball, football, everything high level play. But with gaming, it's just a lot more segmented, and like it used to be really, really bad back in like the 2000s, mid 2000s, and even late 2000s. And I guess it is still really bad. I don't really see it as much because I'm not in the competitive scene like I used to be. Ever since like 2014, 2013 is kind of when I stopped hanging around the majority of like the world's best players type thing. Because at that point, I was in the League of Legends circuit where I was doing commentary, and I was hanging out with like CLG people, TSM, C9, and stuff like that. Like I would do a lot of commentating for charity events, and I was going to like League of Legends Worlds, and just like hang around these people. And everyone had the same exact mentality. Everyone, hands down. It was just, are they the best player? Can they meld well with the team? That's it. Nobody cared. Nobody actually cared. The only people who cared about who the player was were like the dumb fucks online. The problem is the highest level people don't care so much that they just never bring it up. They literally just never bring it up because it's just so insignificant to them. It's just so insignificant. Everything, race, religion, all that stuff, completely insignificant to them. So it doesn't even cross their mind. It doesn't even enter their thought process that this is happening. And it's also such a minuscule amount of people. They do have a lot of influence, but it just like never enters their mind. So the only people who have like a general power and voice over who is like quote unquote accepted into the community are going to be the vocal majority or minority. So you get the people like in any game that is just like spamming racial slurs or whatever, and that's it. That's all you're exposed to. If you look at a game on Twitch, you see the best player ever. You're like, wow, this game is awesome. Mom, Dad, can you get me this game? You get the game, you boot it up, you have, your headphones, microphone, you say something, and then all of a sudden you're just berated with every bad word that could be hurled at you in the sun. It's like, I don't want to play this game anymore. That's just that full stop. That's just where it stops. Now, is it justifiable that you have 1, 2, or 3 bad experiences and you should just full stop, no longer ever play that? Not necessarily, because not all people are like that. But at the same time, it's human nature. So like you always have to take that into account. So you always want to be accepting of as many people as possible. And that's what I try to do here. As far as the mayor of Sodium City goes, I guess. Yeah, I also just don't care at the same time. As long as you're cool to hang out with, as long as you're fun, as long as you're enjoyable, that's it. That's all that matters to me. I try to promote other stuff as much as possible when I can, like this, even this is just a little bit, But, one of my really good friends, Taj, he's commentating at this tournament. It's just the Black Empowerment Melee Invitational. It's Smash Brothers Melee. He's doing top 8 commentary right now. He's super talented. Again, one of my best friends, IRL. So yeah, just kind of doing all the things that way. Even if it's just a little sport. And I never talk about, like, if I'm on stream, I never talk about what I donate to a charity, what charities I donate to, if I donate time to whatever thing. I don't talk about any of that stuff because to me it doesn't matter. I shouldn't have to say any of that stuff because it should be apparent that I care, and it should be apparent that I do stuff like that. I don't care too much for the virtue signaling thing a whole lot, but I don't know. Maybe I should more. I don't know. It's a constant internal struggle, I think, sometimes, of what I should be doing. Like how this guy's name, it's okay if I lose. But he's a Falcon player. You can't lose this Falcon. Impossible. You should never be in gaming pointing out that someone is of a different race, religion, or anything else. It should only be if the player is good or you can learn from that player. Communities, organizations, singling out race, religion. Yeah, it's just like if you're going to church to pray or preach or whatever, the same thing. It shouldn't matter what your race is. It shouldn't matter what your sex is. None of that should matter. What should matter is that you're at that place of worship to do whatever it is that you do. I'm not religious, so I'm not saying any of that stuff. But you get the general idea. You're going to a place because you're passionate about that thing. It shouldn't matter about anything else, right? As long as you're not like a serial killer or something, obviously. But that's a different thing, There's obviously some other morals that go into it, but you understand my point. Yeah, and a lot of it is exposure. A lot of it is just simple exposure. You'd be surprised how crazy some stuff is. So, all right. So imagine you are just a random white person in the middle, like in the Midwest of America, where there's literally 0 black people. You're in a small town. It's all white people. You've never met a black person in your life. Your only exposure ever to black people is like gangster rap and angry, violent like movies where they just kill people all the time. That's your literal only exposure, are those two things where they're talking about drugs, like hoeing out bitches, like killing people, shooting people up. That's your only exposure, your only knowledge whatsoever. Like, what else are you supposed to think? Right? Like, that's mind blowing. If you're completely cut off of all access, that's just the only thing you know. Because you have no actual exposure. You would just have no access. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. You're just completely in the dark. Like, what else? It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Like, you actually think about it. You're like, that is fucked up. But that's like how racism and bigotry is like born almost, or how it's perpetuated. Because that's the only thing you know. Is fucking crazy. Met a guy like that in the military? Yeah. But then once you're actually because I've heard stories like that because I worked on Marine bases for a few years. And so I met a lot of people like that as well. And they're like, yeah, but once you get in the military, you have to rely on these people. But then once you get to know these people, you realize that like none of them are like that. Like none of them. And you're like, oh, well, what the fuck? Why is this the only thing I've ever heard? And then you just slowly see their mind break. You're like, everything I have known for 20 years of my life about this group of people, all of it's fake. Maybe not fake, but you understand my point. It's like when the only thing you know is 1% or 2%, 5%, whatever it is of what's actually happening. You're like, what the hell? It's so mind blowing. I couldn't imagine being that person, but it's weird. It's weird. Like, I get how it happens. It just sucks that it happens. But it's events like this, the Black Empowerment Melee Invitational, where you get to see the best Black talent in this game, and everyone gets to see this and be like, oh, everyone here is like really fucking good. There are some really talented people that are of my race or of a race that I'd never see play this game. There are really good players at this game. And so you now have people that you can look up to. You now have a whole new group of people that you're like, hey, let's do a collab, or hey, let's play. You play a character that I am really bad at playing against. I need some help with this matchup. Can you help me? It's like a bunch of things like that. There's so many things. There's just so many things that this helps. It doesn't seem that way at face value. Like, you look at it initially and it's not like that, but then you really drill into it and that's what it is. It's really interesting when you look at it like that. Way to do a race training. There's only 2 raised hands say, I've never seen any other race in person but white people. Who's from the hills of Tennessee. That's nuts. Oh, the rest. Yeah, it's the Black Empowerment Melee Invitational. Yeah, if you've seen the streams over the last like month-ish, you may have seen Taj. He's like the super 7 foot, 8 foot, 20 foot tall black guy here. His name is Taj. He's just a really good friend of mine, but he is commentating the top 8 of this tournament right now. So what this is saying is that, oh, okay, you missed like the whole first part of my speech. Are you wrong? It depends on what connotation you're saying it, but if you want to be extremely reductive about it, yes, I guess. Yeah, if you want to be extremely reductive about it, yeah. But it's trying to promote a group of people that aren't typically out there because they just don't get promotion for whatever reason. Whether it's, I don't know, there's a bajillion reasons, right? Yeah, no, well, it is like the correct opinion. It's a lot deeper than that. Like, it is fighting, it's not even fighting segregation, because you're not fighting segregation, but it is segregation by saying it's only for black people. But it's just, that's a really reductive way of what it is. It's really reductive.
Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to this point, it means you either really enjoyed the video or you fell asleep and I'm waking you up now. Either way, thank you for all the support. I really do appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, come out with videos 7 days a week.